historian Ross Pishtel. Now I will be presenting President William Howard Taft. He was a member of the Republican Party, and he was the Secretary of War during Theodore Roosevelt's presidency. He approved of the Square Deal, very progressive for the time. But he didn't have the charisma of Theodore Roosevelt, despite being groomed by him. He won the election and became president. And he pursued more antitrust suits than Roosevelt. Very close. And finally, the most important thing during his presidency, regarding progressivism, is the establishment of the Commission on Economy and Efficiency, which made it a very easier way to reform the presidential budget. However, he did many things to upset Roosevelt's supporters and progressives within the Republican Party and outright. He mediated the Pinchot-Ballinger controversy, and he kept the current people in power, which were conservative. And the progressives hated that the conservative people were still in power regarding the National Park Service. Now we also have the Payne-Aldrich Act, which was passed by President Taft, and it raised tariffs, and that angered progressives very much so. Then, even though he angered and feuded with President Roosevelt, he still had a lot of support, and he ran for the election with the Republican Party in the election of 1912. However, he did not succeed. Despite all this, and feuding with Roosevelt, he still got appointed to the Supreme Court as the Chief Justice from 1921 to 1930 when he died.
Hello, my president is President Theodore Roosevelt. He was born on October 27th, 1858, and he died on January 6th, 1919. First, President Theodore Roosevelt was actually the vice president of McKinley, which is a good position to be in due to the fact that McKinley soon was assassinated afterwards. So that made President Theodore Roosevelt the 26th president of the United States. Roosevelt had many great accomplishments during his presidency. For example, Roosevelt won the Nobel Peace Prize for going ahead and helping end the Russo-Japanese War. And he was very politically active, as you could tell by what I just said. But most of all, he was a progressive president, and he was progressive for many reasons. One of the reasons was he went ahead and busted trusts. Now, what that means is that he went ahead and used the Sherman Antitrust Act to go ahead and used it against large corporations. The presidents in the past haven't had the guts to do themselves. He also went ahead and did something he called it the Square Deal. Basically what that meant was that he went ahead and said that he would go ahead and work with the workers and the corporations to go ahead and find a middle place for both of them, which was actually a pretty socialist thing to do. But also, he did the Hepburn Act, which is actually pretty important due to the fact that it gave federal control to railroads, which is something that a lot of farmers were complaining about because railroads had a lot of control over how farmers moved their produce. He also did the Pure Food and Drug Act, which was actually a response to public anger that had recently arisen due to the unsanitary conditions of the meat processing, food processing in general. But most of all, probably the biggest legislation passed during Theodore Roosevelt's presidency was the establishment of the U.S. Forest Services and also the establishment of national parks. They would both be very important things that we would value over many years, long past President Theodore Roosevelt's presidency. And even though, despite the fact that there were a lot of people who disapproved of it, him going ahead and establishing these the national parks would be something that would set him apart as a president, as a progressive president, for the rest of U.S. history.
Miss Woodrow Wilson, born on December 28, 1856 to February 3, 1924, was the 28th President of the United States. Leading the United States through World War I and advocating for democracy and world peace, before serving as president, he served as the governor of New Jersey in 1910. Historians rank Wilson as the nation's greatest president because of his domestic programs expanding the roles of the federal government in managing the economy while protecting the interests of immigrants. Once in office, he persuaded an ambitious agenda of progressive reforms that included the establishment of the Federal Reserve and the Federal Trade Commission. Although he tried to stay neutral during World War I, he ultimately had to declare war on Germany in 1917. After the war, he helped mediate a peace treaty that included a plan for the League of Nations. Although the Senate rejected the U.S. membership in the League of Nations, due to the treaty, Wilson received the Nobel Peace Prize for his peacemaking efforts. Wilson is considered a progressive president because he favored a strong central government and antitrust legislative and labor laws. As president, he passed many important legislative like the 17th Amendment and the Clayton Antitrust Act. But the most important of all was the 16th Amendment. The 16th Amendment allows Congress to collect taxes, in which return allows the government to keep an army, build roads and bridges, enforce laws, and carry out important duties.